Hello everyone. Subscribe to the channel to get more videos. Also, let us know in the comments what city you are watching from. Now let's begin this one. You'd think a message like that would come with some kind of warning. A phone call. A long sigh. Maybe even a slammed door. But not Dana. She preferred drama without the noise. Just a calm little text, like she was announcing she'd picked up almond milk on the way home. Colin, I'm leaving. I've taken what was mine, $9, $200 from our joint savings. I'm starting fresh with someone who understands me. His name is Travis. He's a yoga instructor. I hope someday you'll see this as a kindness. D. She attached a screenshot of the drained account balance. 0. Not even $1 left. I stared at it for a while without reacting. No twitch, no outburst. Just the soft hum of the office lights in the endless rows of permit requests on my second monitor. Some downtown alley getting retrofitted. A cracked sidewalk up for replacement. Boring stuff, but stable. My name is Colin Maynard. I'm 42. I've lived in Dallas my whole life, aside from 4 years at A&M, civil engineer for the city. My job is to look at stress points before things collapse. Turns out that training works outside the office too. The truth is, Dana had been showing signs of stress for a while, hairline cracks I pretended not to see. I thought maybe if I gave her space, she'd settle. But now I realized I'd been watching a slow failure, just like the ones I see in concrete beams. You never think a structure's failing until the whole thing's gone. It started when Mom passed last year. Sudden heart failure. Dana cried harder than I did. Threw herself into grief rituals, candles, crystals, sage. She joined a trauma breathwork group and came home talking about chakras and cellular pain memory. At first, I thought it was just how she coped. Then she got interested in my mother's finances. Her pension. The insurance payout. That's when the question started. Did she leave everything in your name? Or was some of it shared? Shouldn't we merge our retirement accounts now that we're older? Don't you think keeping your inheritance in a private account is symbolic? Like, you're holding on to something you should let go of. It had rubbed me the wrong way. Especially since Dana had never asked about money before, not until there was more of it to ask about. I remember the day I moved part of Mom's money into a trust. Dana had just come home from a sound bath with Travis. Yes, the same Travis, and said the room vibrated like the womb. I said nothing and opened a Fidelity account that night. Looking back now, it all feels stupidly obvious. The sudden urge to go to grief yoga every weekend. The fact that she cried more when the pension statement came in than when we spread my mom's ashes. The way she'd hover when I logged into our accounts, pretending to fold laundry behind me. And that text? That was the payoff. Her grand finale. I didn't reply. I didn't get up from my desk. I just clicked out of the city permit database and opened a spreadsheet with all our account numbers. I didn't need to cry. I didn't even feel angry. I felt, right? Like I had expected this. Maybe not from Dana, but from someone. That's the thing about being a structural guy. You learn that everything has limits. Materials. People. Even love. You don't stop failures. You plan for them. And if you're smart, you make sure when the walls fall down, they don't take everything else with them. I didn't go home that night. I didn't even think about it. I stayed at the office, ordered cheap barbecue from the place down the street, and kept my eyes on the screen like it was any other Tuesday. But inside, I was already moving. First thing I did was check the trust. Mom's pension, untouched. The house deed, secured under the living trust I'd drawn up 6 months ago. Retirement accounts, all insulated, with dual key protections Dana didn't even know existed. The only thing she got was what I let her see, the joint savings account, the $9,200. I'd left it there on purpose. It's not that I expected her to steal it, but I needed to know. I needed to see whether the hairline cracks were cosmetic or structural. So I made it easy. Left the door unlocked. Let her show me what she really wanted. Now I knew. I leaned back in my chair, sipping lukewarm coffee, and thought about my mother. She used to say, stormproof your life, Colin. Reinforce what matters. She wasn't poetic, she was practical. Raised 3 boys after my dad bailed, worked maintenance at the water treatment plant for 32 years, and never once let us go hungry. She taught me that security wasn't about having a lot. It was about building smart and early. The first year Dana and I got married, Mom gave me a binder. No explanation. Just handed it to me with a post-it that said, in case. Inside were all her accounts, insurance documents, even copies of our marriage certificate and prenup. She'd written notes in the margins, little warnings. Never tie your home to someone else's credit. If they want access, ask why. No one needs the whole safe to borrow a flashlight. She knew something I didn't. Back then, I thought it was paranoia. Now I call it foresight. I pulled out a legal pad from my drawer. Wrote across the top, stabilize. Then I made a list. Not revenge. Not retribution. Just structure. Contact Mitch, lawyer. Update passwords, email, banks, utilities. Notify Fidelity of spousal withdrawal, optional fraud alert. Cancel shared credit card. Secure property docs and file new restraining trust entries. I paused, then added. Don't respond to Dana. Yet, there was no sense giving her a reaction she could use. She wanted drama, leverage, maybe guilt. I wasn't giving her that. Not when all I really needed to do was hold the line. Outside my window, the city moved like always. Buses, brake lights, the faint sound of sirens in the distance. It made me feel steady, grounded. I'd spent years designing roadways and load-bearing culverts, structures that handled weight better than people do. The marriage, I realized, had been built on bad assumptions. I thought love was enough. That if you gave someone stability, they'd value it. Dana didn't want stability. She wanted sensation. She wanted something that looked like safety, but felt like a rush. Enter, Travis. Enter, spiritual alignment. Exit, marriage. At 9 p.m., I called Mitch. He picked up like he always did. Colin, that late-night voice doesn't sound good. It's not. Dana's gone. Took the joint savings. Ran off with a yoga instructor. There was a pause. Then, tell me what she touched. I told him. After a few minutes of cross-checking, he said, so far, she's only stolen from herself. That joint account was the only asset not in the trust. Smart move on your part. I'll start the paperwork in the morning. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Thanks, Mitch. One more thing, he added. You want to file criminal charges? I hesitated. Not yet. Let's see what she thinks she's owed first. Because I knew Dana. I knew she wasn't done. She was going to come back with demands, maybe a claim on the house or a piece of the pension. She'd feel entitled, because for the last few years, I let her play the role of equal partner. Emotionally, sure. But financially? I'd always kept things separate. Quietly. Structurally. Mom had told me once, don't build a house where the soil shifts under you. Lay your own foundation. That night, I locked the door to my office and stretched out on the old leather sofa in the corner. No sheets. No pillow. Just me and a legal pad on the coffee table. This wasn't devastation. This was confirmation. People always ask how bridges fall. But the truth is, they don't collapse all at once. It's slow. Incremental. Invisible until it isn't. That's how I lost Dana. Not through a fight. Not through some affair. Through flexion. Through fatigue. And I'd been watching it the whole time. 3 days went by before I heard from her again. I was back at the office, sorting through runoff channel permit drafts, when her name lit up on my phone. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, it rang again. Same name. Same number I hadn't blocked on purpose. I wanted a record. By the third call, I figured she'd leave something interesting. I clicked play on the voicemail with my coffee in one hand, pen in the other. Colin. Well, I guess this is how we're doing it now. You don't even have the decency to call me back? You're being childish. Avoiding your own wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife, isn't exactly mature. I just want to talk about the next steps. Call me. I didn't. Instead, I added a new entry to the yellow legal pad sitting beside my desk. 7. Save voicemail. By that afternoon, she switched tactics. I got an email titled Urgent, House and Financial Discussion. It was worded like a lawyer had coached her. The body was short. Colin. Since you have chosen not to respond, I am formally requesting a meeting to begin divorce discussions. As we share joint assets, including the marital home, the savings account, and your pension, I expect an equitable division. Please let me know your availability or have your attorney reach out to mine. Dana. My pension. That's when I knew she was bluffing. I took a sip of coffee and leaned back in my chair, watching the cursor blink on the screen. I didn't reply. Instead, I called Mitch. She's coming for the pension, I said. She can't touch it, Mitch replied. The trust protects it, and the prenup explicitly outlines separate property rights. The only thing she touched was the joint savings, so she's already violated the prenup herself. In fact, that could trigger a forfeiture clause if this goes to court. That made me smile. Not a happy smile. A structural smile. Reinforced. That night, I let her call me again. I answered, finally, just to hear how far she'd go. She launched right in. Do you even understand how cruel this is, Colin? You're stonewalling. I've been trying to be civil. But this isn't just your money. I was your wife. I kept my voice calm. Then you should have asked before you emptied the account. She bristled. I could hear it in the pause. We both know that money wasn't just yours. Sure, I said. That's why I left it there. So you could decide what kind of person you are. Silence. Look, we need to figure out the house, she said, trying to pivot. I've already spoken to a lawyer. He says I'm entitled to half the equity. I waited a beat. Then I'd suggest your lawyer looks into everything thoroughly, I said evenly. Dana's confidence faltered just slightly. Her voice lost its edge. What's that supposed to mean? I'm just saying, I replied. Be sure he has the full picture. Everything's documented. That got her. She tried to keep her composure, but her voice sharpened. Don't try anything sneaky, Colin. I'm not stupid. I never said you were, I said. Just impatient. She hung up on me. I sat there in the quiet, the buzz of fluorescent lights overhead, and wrote down one more thing on the pad. 8. Let her come to me. Let her keep guessing. Because she still didn't know. She didn't know the house had been folded into a living trust a year ago. Didn't know the prenup had clauses she'd clearly violated. Didn't know that taking the joint savings was a trigger, a kind of legal trapdoor that I'd built not out of malice, but out of planning. Structural awareness. She thought she was holding the cards. But all she had was a yoga instructor and an overdraft account. I had something better. Stability. And I wasn't giving her an inch. It had been over a week since Dana's last call. Her lawyer sent a letter, stiff with formal language and vague threats. I sent it straight to Mitch, who sent back a 3-word reply. Let them swing. On Friday, I left work early and drove 40 minutes south of Dallas to the edge of Ellis County, past the suburbs and strip malls and into a patch of scrubland where nothing moved but the wind and the old water towers. I turned onto the narrow road with no street sign and followed it until the gravel ran out. At the end of it sat the old water treatment plant where my mom worked most of her life. They shut it down years ago when the new facility opened off I-35, but the old brick building still stood. Faded, windowless, fenced off. Most people drove past without giving it a second thought. But I parked by the side, cut the engine, and just sat there for a while. I hadn't been back since the funeral. She used to bring me here when I was a kid, back when she'd pull overtime and couldn't get a sitter. I'd sit in the break room after school, eating vending machine crackers while she repaired meters or checked sediment levels. I remember the smell of chlorine, the hum of the machines, the worn boots she kept in the locker marked Maynard. She used to say, everything breaks eventually, baby. But if you check your systems and reinforce what matters, most things last a good long while. She wasn't talking about pipes. I got out of the truck and stood by the chain-link fence, looking at the rusted entrance door. There was a padlock now, and the windows were boarded. But the shape of the place was the same. Solid. Functional. Not pretty, but built to last. I thought about the last real conversation we'd had before her surgery, when we were sitting on her porch and the evening sun made her gray hair glow gold. People will grab what they didn't earn, she'd said, sipping from her cup. That's the first sign they think they deserve it. What if they're family? I'd asked. She snorted. That's when they're the most dangerous. Because you won't see it coming. I'll be careful. Don't be careful. Be smart. She didn't make it out of the hospital that time. But she'd made her point. Back in the truck, I pulled out my binder from the glove box, the financial roadmap Mitch and I put together after Dana's first red flag, the day she asked about merging accounts to reflect our energy alignment. That was 8 months ago. I flipped through the pages slowly, rereading the trust details, the pension allocations, the clause in the prenup that stated any unauthorized withdrawal over $5,000 would be grounds for forfeiture of future claims. Dana had signed it during the honeymoon phase, smiling and saying, of course, I trust you completely. It was all here. Documented. Indexed. Safe. I thought about Dana now, probably living in some sublet apartment near Deep Ellum with Travis the Enlightened, burning incense and staging her next rebirth on Instagram. I wondered if she realized yet that the money she took was the bait, that everything else was bolted down. The house? Already locked into the Maynard Trust. The pension? Legally shielded through separate property designations. The only thing she won was exactly what I wanted her to take. A test. A tell. People say betrayal comes out of nowhere. But it doesn't. It comes quietly, through repetition. Through little moves that seem harmless until they aren't. I had grown up watching things wear out tools, joints, people, and I'd learned to measure decay before it became disaster. That's what this was. Not a heartbreak, not a failure, a result. I closed the binder, started the engine, and headed home. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt ready. Because Mom had been right about one thing above all: plan for the storm before the clouds ever show up. The mediation was set for a Tuesday morning, downtown Dallas. It wasn't court, not yet. Just a preliminary meeting in a bland, carpeted conference room on the 8th floor of a commercial law office. Glass walls, neutral colors, bottled water on the table, all designed to make people feel calm while tearing each other apart. I wore a plain navy sport coat and brought nothing but a black zippered binder. No entourage, no paralegal hovering behind me. Just a folder labeled Maynard Trust, Prenup, Financial Records. Dana, of course, made an entrance. She walked in like she was floating 6 inches above the floor. Flowing cream blouse, oversized sunglasses perched on her head like she'd just come from a retreat. Her lawyer was right behind her, polished, confident, shaking hands like it was a social mixer. Dana looked me up and down, then gave a slight smile, like she was seeing an old high school friend she'd outgrown. "Hi, Colin," she said lightly, as if none of this was strange. I gave her a nod and sat down. Mitch, my attorney, joined me a minute later. He was wearing his usual gray suit and a grin that looked like it had been sharpened. The mediator, a woman in her 50s with an efficient tone, opened with a speech about fairness, openness, and productive conversation. We all nodded like actors in a corporate training video. Then Dana's lawyer leaned forward, clasping his hands. "We're here to discuss a fair division of assets, including but not limited to the marital home, retirement accounts, and shared financial resources accumulated during the marriage." He paused for effect, then added, "Dana is prepared to waive spousal support in exchange for her fair share of the house equity and half of the pension plan moving forward." I didn't blink. Mitch opened the binder and slid a few documents across the table. "Let's start with this," he said, cool and precise. "The Maynard Living Trust, established before marriage, which holds the deed to the home in question. Colin is sole beneficiary and trustee. The house is not marital property." Dana's lawyer frowned slightly but said nothing. Mitch continued. "And this," he tapped another document, "is the prenuptial agreement. Signed and notarized. Clause 17 outlines the separation of retirement accounts and the exclusion of pensions from marital claims. It also includes a forfeiture clause." Dana's lawyer raised an eyebrow. "A what?" Mitch smiled. "A forfeiture clause. Section 17B. Any unauthorized withdrawal or dissipation of funds over $5,000 results in the offending party surrendering their claim to all other joint or separate assets." He pulled out a final page, Dana's bank transfer. $9,200. Her name, the date, the joint account routing number. "And here," he said, placing it in front of the mediator, "is the bank record showing Dana transferred funds from the joint account without notice, consent, or legal justification, thus activating the forfeiture clause." Dana shifted in her seat. Her lawyer tried to rally. "This clause hasn't been tested. A court could still interpret it. It's enforceable under Texas law," Mitch interrupted, "and it'll hold up just fine in court." The mediator glanced at Dana. "Do you contest the withdrawal?" Dana opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She closed it again. Her confidence had cracked, just slightly, like a hairline fissure in glass, there, but spreading. Her lawyer cleared his throat. "We'd like a moment to confer." They stepped out into the hallway. I didn't watch them go. I just sat there, flipping to the next page in my binder. Mitch leaned over. "She thought you'd fold. She never read the foundation." 10 minutes later, they returned. Dana's face was different now, tighter, less composed. Her eyes flicked to me, uncertain. Her lawyer sat down and smoothed his tie. "We'd be open to discussing a non-contested dissolution, with no claims to property or pension, provided no legal action is pursued regarding the joint account." Mitch nodded. "We'll take that under consideration." The meeting ended shortly after that. No yelling, no drama, just quiet paperwork and a woman realizing that what she thought was leverage was actually evidence. She had walked in expecting me to crumble. She walked out realizing I'd built something she couldn't touch. That's the thing about smart structures. They don't collapse when people push. They push back. The meeting ended just before noon. I walked out of the building feeling lighter, like I'd set down a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. Dana didn't say a word during the last half hour. She barely looked at me, but I knew it wasn't over. People like Dana never just walk away. I didn't have to wait long. She was already waiting in the parking lot, leaning against the hood of a Lexus that probably wasn't hers. Arms crossed, sunglasses on, eyes locked on me like she'd rehearsed the pose. I thought about just walking past her, getting in my truck and driving away. But I'd let her have the last word for too long. So I stopped a few feet away. She pulled off the sunglasses. Her eyes were red. I can't believe you'd do this to me. I kept my voice steady. You mean hold you to what you signed? Or protect what my mother left me? Her jaw tightened. You manipulated me. I actually laughed. Quiet, humorless. I gave you access to one account, Dana. The one I could afford to lose. You made the decision. I just didn't stop you. She took a shaky breath, looking away for a second. I wasn't trying to screw you over. No, I said. Because it kind of felt that way when I got your text and saw the account empty. That money was half mine, she snapped. It wasn't. I shook my head. And even if it was, you don't take your half and then some while walking out the door with someone else. That's not how this works. Her voice cracked. You don't understand what it's been like. Oh, I do, I said. I understand what it's like to watch someone you love drift so far into herself she forgets who stood by her. I understand being used for security while you chase something shiny. I was trying to grow, she said, as if the words tasted noble. I stared at her. You weren't growing. You were shedding the parts of your life that made you feel ordinary. She bit her lip, eyes glassy now. It wasn't supposed to go this way. You thought I'd just fold, I said. Give you whatever you asked for. Stay quiet while you rewrote the ending. Dana stepped forward. Colin, please. I made mistakes. No, I cut in. Don't do that. Don't beg now. She hesitated. Then her tone shifted again, sharper. Defensive. You always acted like you were smarter than me. Like I didn't deserve to ask questions. Like I was just temporary. I looked at her, really looked, and I saw the truth she didn't want to admit. She wasn't angry. She was embarrassed. Dana, I said quietly, you didn't just betray me. You revealed yourself. She opened her mouth, closed it. For once, she had nothing to say. I stepped around her and walked to my truck. She didn't follow. Just stood there, blinking in the bright Texas sun, arms hanging loose at her sides. And that was the moment I realized something. She wasn't the storm. She was just the weak part of the structure. And I had already reinforced the foundation. It had been 6 months since that day in the parking lot. Dana hadn't called. Not a word, not a message. Just silence. Which was fine with me. The divorce was finalized, the property line drawn clean, and I'd moved on, at least structurally. Emotionally, I was still figuring out what to do with the space where a marriage used to be. Then, on a humid Thursday afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, it rang again. This time I answered. Something in my gut told me it was her. Colin, please don't hang up. Her voice was quiet. Strained. I didn't say anything. Just waited. It's me. Dana. Like I needed confirmation. I still didn't speak. The silence pressed on her. I could hear her breathing hard, like she'd been crying or running. Travis is gone, she finally said. Still, I didn't answer. He emptied my account, she went on. The one I opened after I left. It's all gone. Everything I had. Now I spoke. Sounds familiar. She sniffled. He said he was opening a retreat center in Sedona. Said we'd be partners. I took out a loan against my sister's condo to help him secure the land. He disappeared 2 weeks ago. No return calls. Nothing. My eyes closed. Not from pity, just from the weight of it. The predictability. I'm bankrupt, she whispered. My sister won't speak to me. I have nowhere to go. I'm staying with a friend, but I can't stay much longer. I thought maybe you could help me get back on my feet. Just a loan. Short term. Please, Colin. I don't know what else to do. I took a slow breath and looked out the window. Sunlight bounced off the hood of my truck. The same one I'd driven the day she left. I'm not angry, I said. Not anymore. She was quiet on the other end. But I'm not your backup plan, I continued. You didn't just take money when you left, Dana. You took trust. Stability. You took the life we built and treated it like scaffolding for your escape. I know, she whispered. I was stupid. I thought I knew what I wanted. You wanted freedom. You got it. I didn't know freedom would feel like this, she said. Empty. Cold. I didn't respond. I don't have anyone else, Colin. That's because you burned everyone who stood still long enough to care, I said. She broke then. Full sobs now, not even trying to hide it. I'm sorry, she choked out. Please. Just enough to get me through the next few weeks. I'll pay you back. I swear. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see it. You taught me something important, Dana. What? That even smart people can get fooled if they ignore the signs long enough. More silence. Then, finally, between shallow breaths, so that's it. That's it. A pause. You really hate me that much? I sighed. No. I just don't owe you anything. She tried to say something else, but I ended the call. I stood there in the kitchen with my phone in my hand. The last rays of sunlight spilled across the countertop. Everything was quiet. Stable. For the first time, I realized I didn't feel bitter. She had made her choices, and I'd already paid the price for mine. 2 years later, I live in a different house. Smaller. Simpler. It's about 20 minutes south of the city, near a reservoir I once helped design. Funny how things circle back. I used to review floodplain permits for this area back when I was fresh out of college. Now I sit on my back porch and watch the water levels rise and fall like clockwork. The house isn't flashy. 1 story. Modest yard. Vinyl siding. But it's solid. I designed the foundation myself, reinforced slab with extended footings. Not because I had to, but because I like knowing what's under my feet. There's peace here. Not just the quiet kind, but the earned kind. The kind you get after walking away from something that almost broke you and realizing you didn't crack. I still work for the city, but only 4 days a week now. I spend Fridays mentoring young engineers through a volunteer program. Mostly college grads who think they're going to change the world through drainage modeling and sidewalk codes. I teach them how to find the weak points in buildings and in people. I show them how to design for stress, not avoid it. I tell them, you don't stop the storm. You build around it. A few months back, I met someone. Her name's Elena. She runs a community education center near the Trinity River. We met at a flood mitigation workshop. Both of us were speaking on separate panels. She asked a question about topography I didn't expect. Smart. Practical. No fluff. We went for coffee after the event. It turned into dinner. Then another. She doesn't talk in circles. Doesn't flinch when I'm quiet. She keeps her finances separate and makes it clear she always will. It's not cold. It's honest. She owns her space and lets me own mine. We're not rushing anything. No shared keys. No account merging. Just 2 people who like how the other one listens. Last Sunday, I visited Mom's grave. It's a small cemetery out near Waxahachie, nothing fancy. Just a clean stone and a clear view of the sky. I brought her something, a copy of a book I helped edit this year. It's called Smart Structures, Stronger Lives, Personal and Professional Resilience Through Engineering. I wrote the last chapter. It's not about buildings. It's about people, about how you brace for failure and design for survival. I placed the book on the grass beneath her headstone, then sat for a while. I told her I'd done what she said, reinforced what mattered, storm-proofed my life. And I meant it. Because now, for the first time in a long time, there are no fractures under the surface. Just clean lines. And a foundation that's finally holding. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and share your opinion about this story in the comments.